This is Bloomberg Businessweek with Carol Massar and Tim Stenovec on Bloomberg Radio.
Well, each fall, Bloomberg Pursuits does a ski takeover. They highlight where to ski and what gear to use for the upcoming season. So in last season's takeover, we sent Businessweek contributor Gordy Megras to try out some skis from a new company called Peak Ski Company, based in Montana, co-founded by ski racing legend Bode Miller. So here's what Gordy wrote after spending all day on the skis, Carol. Typically, skis require a certain amount of speed and pressure to engage the tip and initiate the turn, but these carved without having to apply that force. At speed, on the steeps, they held the turn like a race ski, and in bumps and slush, they were quick and forgiving. Not once did I feel off balance. He continued, anybody could use these skis. Beginners would love them because they're easy to turn. Experts would too, because they still can ski aggressively and feel solid underfoot.
It's a great feel of what these two gentlemen are up to. So let's talk more about the skis with the co-founders of the company, Andy Wirth and Bode Miller. Andy, also CEO and president of Peak Ski Company. He joins us from Bozeman, Montana. Bode, by the way, of course you know him, Olympic and World Championship gold medalist many times over, and the Chief Innovation Officer at Peak Ski Company. He joins us on Zoom from Big Sky, Montana. Guys, so great to have you here with us. Bode, let me start with you. How did this all come together to create Peak Ski? And why did you want to do it?
Well, I've been obviously in skiing since I was real little and had exposure to a lot of different companies. Started on K2, then Fisher, then Rossignol, then Atomic, then Head for 8 or 10 years. So being in the race rooms and seeing the economics, the way the ski companies worked and the challenging aspects of the construction methodology was kind of frustrating for me. It's pretty analog, and they're sort of stuck in a lot of ways. We didn't really change much in the ski world. We were changing skis all the time, prototyping, but just watching what was happening in the consumer market and then sort of understanding the business model of those companies as I was with them, it seemed really unlikely that I would go into the hard goods side of the business. I know Andy felt the same way. We both kind of came into this as skeptics or contrarians. But as we dove into it a little bit more, I mean, I always wanted to bring better skis to the consumer market. There's a big gap between World Cup skis and the rest. And World Cup skis, granted, are specifically designed for racing and hard snow, really smooth, perfectly prepared hills, which obviously wouldn't apply as well to your consumer just because the hill's always a little messed up, puffs of snow, and
right.
Nothing is manicured like we get in World Cup. But my goal was to bring really good skis to the market. And then as Andy and I evolved through this, I had a connection with a company in Germany, a good friend of mine, and I'd always wanted to sort of modernize the manufacturing process. And I don't know that Andy and I would have done it had we just had the model of doing what we're doing right now, which is, building skis and selling them direct to consumer. It's a fine business, but the scalability is a little bit problematic. In this case, the real sort of enticing part was re-engineering the manufacturing process so that instead of 45 minutes to build a ski and its glue, and they, for those of you who don't know, it's a bit like making a sandwich. They call it a sandwich construction. It's a lot of different layers laid up with glue or pre-impregnated with glue, and then you compress it and cook it in a press. It takes about 40 minutes or so right now, which is why they've been building skis for next winter already right now, because that's how long it takes to build 1 million pairs of skis, say. And we have a manufacturing process that we're in the works on, where we can build a ski in somewhere around 10 seconds and no glue. So we'll be able to recycle it. The same machine that it constructs it will take it apart, and we can retask those materials. So that was the part that really got us excited. That was sort of the why of doing this.
I want to talk. I want to talk more about that. But
that's where the home run is.
I want to bring in Andy Wirth here because he's a many-year veteran of the ski industry, having run some huge mountains here in the U.S., Squaw Valley for many years, worked at IntraWest before that. Andy, talk about the business here and the financing of this. It's a little confusing to me about who the investors are and who you raised money from and how much money you've raised. So give us the details on the business side here and the reception that you've gotten from as you go out and try to raise money for this.
Thank you very much for that lead out. I should have thought you guys were going to refer to Gordy's article on us. We were recipients of that in November, pleasantly, and certainly a respected writer and certainly writing for Bloomberg. That's a great lead out. Relative to the business, as Bode mentioned, we were both retired about 4 years ago. I worked in the private equity world and also running a bunch of ski resorts, as you know. We came out this business with a contrarian approach, is the understatement. Skeptical in many ways, but after doing a great deal of research and realizing that what Bode had in his mind was something that could provide an exceptional product, new type of product to the market. And we had these strategic initiatives on which we were working. And we commenced building the company, standing it up, so to speak, and launched in April of last year. And Tom, to your point, we had established an initial pre-cash valuation based on pro forma EBITDA on a 3-year basis and pretty contemporary multiples from what I was able to glean from other companies. That pre-cash valuation was $13 million, small company. And then we completed an $8 million raise about, 3-4 months ago. So post-cash 21. And in this case, we're currently raising funds through Republic Capital, which is crowdfunding, basically a safe note. And it has our enterprise value at $35 million. The reason being, Tom, is we have a clear line of sight now on these strategic initiatives. The core of the business are the skis, and that's what prompted and supports that initial fundraising effort and the valuations to which I mentioned, or that I referred to. In this case, we're starting to get a clean line of sight on the 3 strategic initiatives, which include technology integration. It's extreme innovation across all levels, but technology integration through Peak Locate, which is this proprietary device we're inserting in the skis.
Wait. But we're Bloomberg, so we get a little wonky about the financial side of it. So it's interesting. So do you guys continue along these ways? Is there venture capital money also in it? Is the goal to eventually go public? Like, how do you think about it, Andy?
Yeah, no, great question. Of course, and not surprisingly on this format, but I think really we're focused on right now is advancing on these strategic initiatives, and then lessons learned in other acquisition environments in my old career is we're gonna advance on these initiatives, and we think we can get to the point where we can generate substantial value for our current investors and investors coming in through Republic in this mechanism. We can't speak to any exit strategy because we're focused on execution right now.
Yeah.
But we know that we can take the value of the business right now, $35 million, up substantially from here.
Well, it's interesting. And Bode, come on back in, because Tim and I were talking when we were prepping for this, because Tim's a skier, really into this. Were you guys profitable? Like, it can be hard to go up against the establishment, and you learned a lot about the industry and the mechanics, and kind of, I love what you said, the economics of the way ski companies work. You probably learned a lot about it, which can be tough to go against, though, also. So I'm just curious, were you guys profitable in the first year? I mean, how are you looking for about it? And we've got about a minute, and then we're going to come back and talk some more.
Okay,
Yeah,
Carol,
I think,
the answer. Go ahead, Bode.
The typical sales channel that everyone's locked into is really the problem. So Andy and I addressed that by going direct to consumer. Profitability, we ended up not being profitable year one, which was frustrating, but also, given the nature of startups, was not terribly surprising. But the margins are really good. When you sell direct, obviously the margins are much better. You don't have to sell 200,000 pairs of skis to be breaking even. So, I mean, Andy, I'll let you fill in, but the really positive stuff we took out of year one outweighed the fact that we had some quality control issues and just, I guess you'd call them growing pains.
Well, and Andy, hang on for a second, because we've got to do some news, and we don't want you to get cut off. So we're going to continue this and get you to weigh in on that aspect of the business when we come back. We're talking with Andy Wirth and Bode Miller, as we said, of the Peak Ski Company, co-founders. Andy also CEO, Bode also Chief Innovation Officer. And there was a great story that was written by Bloomberg Businessweek that really gives you details about what they set out to do, what Bode set out to do. And it is interesting. I love when, he obviously has learned a lot about the business and how they were doing it. And just this idea of being able to manufacture much more quickly changes the mathematical business.
And also what skis worked for him when he was young, when he was racing. So we'll get into all of that. Let's get right back to Andy Wirth, CEO and president of Peak Ski Company, and Bode Miller, Olympic and World Championship gold medalist and the Chief Innovation Officer at Peak Ski Company. They join us on Zoom from Montana. Bode, I want to go back to you because I was struck when you said after the first year you were frustrated about not being profitable. But I mean, it's really tough for a startup, and I think the expectation to actually be profitable after 1 year. I mean, look at Amazon, for example. It took like more than a decade to regularly become profitable quarter after quarter. Why were you expecting to be profitable after the first year?
I sort of touched on it. The margins, if we'd, that we did model out quite a bit. Andy's a bit of a quant, and I always like to sort of use all of our experience and knowledge. I didn't feel like either of us were very naive coming into this, but the margins on our product are good, and we're selling right in kind of the sweet spot of where they typically net out for a high quality small handmade ski company. But the challenge was quality control. It's a byproduct of the manufacturing process itself. It's just very inexact. You're using materials that have variances to them, and the assembly process is pretty, as I said, it's analog. And so there's us being direct consumer, we didn't feel like we had the latitude to give anything but perfect skis to people. So we ended up with a lot. I think it was close to 30% of our inventory didn't pass the QC inspection of the manufacturer. So wow. It wasn't us nitpicking, it was just the reality, and that was way outside of our modeling, and that was tough. But the great news is we sold through mid 90% of the inventory we had, which was basically wow. Above or right near where we projected. So all of our projections that we could control were good, and that would have led to profitability. The part that was the problem was we didn't have the inventory to sell to get our numbers. But yeah. Again, that's part of the inspiration or the drive to re-engineer the manufacturing process, because everybody wants better stuff, quicker, cheaper, and more precise. Right. And that's what we're sort of delivering.
Hey, Andy, come on back in here because you're building this business with Bode. I'm wondering where else you can go here, because I know you guys were talking about doing a Bode Miller Ski Academy. You ended up pulling the plug on the Granby Ranch location in Colorado back in 2022. Where else can you guys go as a partnership?
Well, kind of the sky's the limit, as they say. Neither of us feel like retired guys nowadays. I can tell you that for darn sure. We come at this business and this effort with a great deal of passion for the outdoors, the mountains, certainly from the ski industry, different angles of attack, but similar ethos and way of approaching things. There's a couple of different ventures that we have that we're taking on and considering. Right now, all of our emphasis and focus is on Peak. And the primary reason being is coming back to this reengineering of the entire process by which skis are made. That puts us in a position to be 3-4 years down the road having our machinery process that we, with a smile on our face, we call a treadstone, because it is fairly confidential information that we're working with this group in Germany. But nonetheless, it's something that we anticipate being a place where we can have 30, 35, 40% of the world's market share made on our machines and our process. Wow. And that is where, when I mentioned value creation, that's where it comes into play.
So does that mean, Andy, you guys will be making skis for other companies, other brands?
Yes, ma'am. In fact, might be interested to know my best effort at a Yogi Berraism is the least important thing about our company are the skis, but they're critical. And the reason being, the skis are critical, but at the same time, we're in this to innovate for the innovation on so many different fronts, including the process.
Right. So at Bode, it's like becoming the Luxottica of skiing, right? Like you don't care what the brand is, but if you can improve the process, that's okay. Or being like a foundry.
You're talking about really established companies, but the irony is, besides attaching and incredible people, Andy and I are big fans of many of the companies that we're competing against. And in this way, we're not looking to steal market share from them, because at a certain point it becomes annoying to manage logistics. In this case, our goal is to have 10 purchase orders and be delivering 2 million pairs of skis. And the advantage that I don't see it stopping there, because we can deliver them for $20 or $30 or $40 less than they make them for themselves now. Plus, they can divest of all their other sort of liabilities, even though a lot of their equipment's amortized. Right. They understand that there's a lot of fluff there. There's a lot of loss, and we can clean that up, as well as there's things like gray market skis that there's a little bit of the inventory is out of control. So I don't see it stopping. I can't see a company saying, hey, build us these 500,000 pairs and we're going to build the other 500,000 for $40 more and deal with 15% waste.
Yeah. Their accountants or their whole financial team might say, wait a minute, let's talk about that. Guys, the impact of climate change, Bode, and the lack of snow, how are you incorporating that risk and reality into your business? I mean, we've finally seen some snow here in New York City, but it's barely a sprinkling here. But innovating with the idea that more and more skiers may be skiing on man-made snow, how does that come into it? And Bode, we've got about 30, 40 seconds here.
Yeah, it's just the reality that we're facing. I think the ski industry is remarkably healthy. I don't think it's an immediate thing for the ski industry. I think it's certainly important that we be dealing with it and addressing it. And in our company, recyclability of the skis is a huge part of the technology we're working with as well. So, I don't see it being a massive problem, but you are going to have years like this year where it's been really tough. The beginning of the season's been tough.
But do you innovate differently? Bode, do you make different types of skis because of maybe more man-made snow? Just quickly.
No, not really. I mean, you think of man-made snow as on-piste, and then there's off-piste skis. And yes, the trend has been going much wider. So we certainly address that end of the market where it's on-groomers, on-piste skis. But the reality is there's a huge demand across the board.
Right.
Hey, Andy, we got about 30 seconds left. I want to give you the last word here and just ask you what's top of mind as we begin the year here and you guys are trying to build this company.
I appreciate that, Tim. And I got to augment one point here is that the climate change matter is something that's an exigent threat for us overall. And what we do is, number one, we reduce our footprint. Number two, we're doing everything we can with this process to actually localize where skis are made. And so that's a pretty substantial contribution in favor of that. But relative to Peak and what we're doing, I'd emphasize the fact that we have Bode, and he's got this brilliant Mensa level creative mind that is unique. It's almost like Chuck Yeager working with Lockheed Martin on the Mach capable airplane back in the 40s. He's got this unique ability to be an engineer, but at the same time put those skis on snow. And that's what enables us to take this all on.
It's a nice compliment.
Very cool. Thank you guys for joining us. Andy Wirth, CEO and president of Peak Ski Company, and Bode Miller, Olympic and World Championship gold medalist and chief innovation officer at Peak Ski.